Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours, where we answer your media and production questions 7 days a week. Alexander Knight's our reader for today. Alexander, what's up first?
First question is coming in this morning from David Brady in New York City, New York, USA. I have a few colleagues that prefer to use the Roland V-1HD over Blackmagic design switchers, which has no companion capabilities. What other options do I have with MIDI?
Alexander, start us off.
You're right about that. Some higher-end Roland camera switchers do actually have companion modules like the V160 HD. That's a very popular switcher in production. But you're right that the V1HD, I took a quick look before the show, and I couldn't find any modules. However, because it does have the MIDI ports in and out, you can send MIDI commands, so you could use a MIDI module to do stuff with that. In fact, Roland has a knowledge base article, David. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. I'm hitting enter. So if you look at that link, they've got all the MIDI commands and they explain how to utilize those functions. And I didn't go into details about what exactly you can do. So I would just have a look at that article and see what you can accomplish with it.
Courtney?
Well, I don't know if it does, if it uses MIDI or Bluetooth, but there is, if you have an iPad, the V1HD remote, which runs on an Apple iPad. So you can run it in its touchscreen interface for you. So it kind of does all the remote stuff that you might want to do with your Stream Deck, but have full control over the switcher. And how it communicates with the switcher, I guess it's over the network. It's either over the network, so you could maybe figure out what the control codes are and write your own little BitFocus plugin for Stream Deck. Or maybe they have one that interfaces with the V1HD Plus remote software. Maybe there's a plugin that works with that.
Guy?
Yeah, it's crazy how that these things are still hanging around. I mean, I sold over 1,000 of these units when I was a Roland dealer. They're super robust, but yeah, they're a little long in the tooth. It's funny, this morning I was looking at a friend's Facebook post and he had a V60 HD with a Stream Deck right in front of it. And his joke was, I'm too lazy to reach the extra 10 inches across his desk to push, camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. For me, I would just use central control. So go buy central control and that translates Stream Decks into MIDI. So you'll have to program it, but it's there. That's the answer.
And then I also saw are you getting into that with the RS-232 that's on the back of that? Is that how that's getting in there?
Well, MIDI that's that little DIN MIDI.
No, it has 5-pin MIDI.
Oh, it does have 5-pin MIDI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry, maybe I was looking at the wrong one. That looks like
and to be clear, this is the Plus. The V1HD Plus is a newer product with different design, and he's talking about the first gen.
I see. Okay, so I'm looking right now at the V1HD Plus, and then so they don't have the MIDI in on that, but they have the RS-232 and the USB control. It's a cool looking little box. Well, check that out. Next question.
This one comes from Jack Cannon in Phoenix, Arizona, USA. We'll be running a bunch of custom length SDI cables. What is your crimping tool of choice?
Courtney?
I do not have a crimping tool of choice because I usually don't make my own cables anymore. But I tell you, make sure, because connectors are made differently. Once you decide on the connectors that you're going to be using, the manufacturer, the style and the impedance and the pin size and all that stuff, buy a crimping tool that is recommended for that specific connector and that specific wire size. Because the ones that are just have 3 different sizes for RG6, RG59, etc., don't necessarily work because the connectors are all different, especially when it comes to crimping that interior pin that's in those connectors. And if you get one that's slightly off in diameter, it's not going to hold. So make sure that you get one that's designed for the cable and the type of connector, because there's compression connectors, there's crimp-on connectors, there's solder-on connectors with crimp collars. There's a million different kinds. So buy the crimping tool that's recommended for that particular connector and cable.
Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, what makers do you prefer for studio furniture?
Jesse?
For the stuff we need to know what we're getting before we get it, we go to IKEA. It's because the furniture is the same around the world if you buy from IKEA. Kallax in LA is the same as a Kallax in Tokyo. And the other thing we like about IKEA, aside from its predictability and the reasonable prices, is that if I go there, I can take the family, drop them off in the commissary, and they're just as happy as can be. If it's not for that kind of like predictable desks that you need for people, if it's for in front of camera furniture, we go to the antique market and find something that is, at this point resembles a one-of-a-kind piece. Even if there might be like 10 of them in the world, nobody's going to call us on it. But that's where we fill in the gap for front of camera furniture.
Alexander?
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that make this kind of stuff. When you say studio, I'm guessing you are looking for some kind of production desk, so I'll just show you what I have. Now, I came across these guys because they hit the price point that I wanted. I didn't want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a studio desk, so I ended up with this company, Glorious Desk. And to be honest with you, the reason why I got it was because it hit the price point, and also we're a dealer for them, so I got it at a good price. The one that I have is this one, the Sound Desk Pro. Comes in different finishes. It's got rack space, 3 RU rack space on either side. Nice thing about it, it's got the cutouts there for wires so you can drop them, and it's got many of those all over the desk here. And then at the back, it actually has a little trough where you can hide all your cablings and organize stuff. It's got the keyboard tray, which will fit a full-size 88 key keyboard there. I just use that for my mouse and keyboard, but you can put anything there, of course. There's a shot of the back. You can see the little cutout there for the cables and stuff like that. And I think this desk cost me, it's gone up in price. I think it cost me about $600, and I think they're about $800 now. But they're well under $1,000. And you know what? For a desk that's made out of, I think it's MDF, it is very, very sturdy. It feels very, very solid on it. And I attribute that to the configuration of the legs here. So you can see this kind of X configuration. So it's very, very sturdy. And I would recommend them. There's other companies like Argosy that make very, very high-end desks, but you get into the $4, $5, $6, and even upwards of $8,000 for a desk that not a lot of people have that kind of money for. And you know what? Their designs are nice, but I just feel like that's a big ask for a desk.
Next question.
Jesse Kester in Glendale asks, I was listening to the pre-show wind-up, and it sounded like you were playing with some pretty cool iPhone accessories for shooting. What were the tools, toys, and tech that you were discussing?
Guy?
Yeah, a few months ago, there was this guy who created this SRT app that would basically SRT vMix with an iPhone with control of a Apple Docket device. So I bought this little Belkin device for testing, and basically what it does is it uses Apple's Docket AI technology to track and move just natively. It's so fast to set up. You just hold your phone up and it talks to it through NFC and registers it, and then it'll follow you around using the native Apple camera app or Blackmagic's camera app, and you could turn it sideways in landscape mode. And it's got this one's got a quarter 20 on the bottom, and CJ had just bought another Apple Docket device that does the same thing, which is the DJI Osmo 8. There's also an Insta360 Docket. So this stuff's just now coming online, and it's super exciting to see this, because the ability to do what this gentleman did with SRT and vMix and remote control over an iPhone, that makes for a really inexpensive PTZ camera. And you could even zoom and control exposure from afar, which is nuts to think that for $200 you could do this kind of thing.
Yeah, and this is the Osmo that the phone is plugged into now. And you heard it beep as I was trying to set up the demo. I didn't have myself muted in the last question. But so what this is doing is I held my phone up to the side of this gimbal camera, or this gimbal from DJI, the new Osmo 8. And then without installing an app, without going through a bunch of setup process, it just said, hey, I've recognized a Docket accessory. Do you want me to pair? And then after a few seconds, it said, okay, I'm all paired up. Let me put your phone in the dock. But then without launching a camera app, as soon as it was in the setup, it started following me with the front-facing camera. Now, this one seems to be a little fast. So I unboxed this in 15 minutes prior to show, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to tweak the settings. I'd like it to be a little bit slower and smoother. It seemed to be smoother as I went further back, so it's also possible that the front camera, when I'm this close, is a little bit more sensitive because, again, it's not using the DJI Active Track technology. It's using just what Apple's built into its frameworks. What's cool about this is that whether you have a camera app running or not, this is running in the background. So you could be using FaceTime, you could be using Zoom, you could be using the Blackmagic camera app. And the exciting thing about the Blackmagic camera app is that if you pair another phone or an iPad to the Blackmagic camera app as a controller, and then this is the remote, you can adjust what lens are you using, what's your exposure, is with your shutter speed. You have access to all of the controls remotely, and then this can be, like Guy said, you have a quarter 20 on the bottom where you can put this on top of a tripod. My vision for how I'm going to use this, there's two. Number one is I want to use it as part of a conference room setup because it has the 360-degree rotation. If there's a presenter that's presenting to a local conference room and then somebody's in the front of the room moving back and forth, this could be, depending on where I move it, a compelling way to have some sort of an active PTZ. But the other thing that I want to try is that if I put the Blackmagic Pro Dock underneath the, put that quarter 20 into this and then have and that on a tripod, now all of a sudden I could have, with the longer lens, which some of the longer lenses on the new phones are doing a good job, a really good job from a video perspective, that for some corporate environments that are a little lower profile that I don't want to have a big setup for, this could be a pretty compelling way to do a fairly lean setup as far as what's going to be in the middle of the room that we're wanting to get to the remotes. For somebody that doesn't want that, because there are some people who do better when they're in front of people. They don't excel as much if they're looking into a camera. So how do you make sure that the person in the leadership position who is more effective and more comfortable when they're in front of an audience still make sure that they can get out to the other side? Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, I just wanted to show now that this one's kind of set up here, how smooth that is. I don't know how aggressive yours is, but you can see it there turning. So
yeah, and I don't know if is that something in the way that the Osmo is either. Do they not have as much resolution as the Belkin and the Osmo were both about $150? So the question is,
I'm excited to get one. I think because mine's from 2024. It won a couple awards in 2024. So I'm wondering how much the technology has improved over a year, because they've probably been working on this since 2023 to get it to market in 2024. So I have the feeling your technology is even better than mine.
I don't know, but we got to play with it. The other thing that I'll say for the Osmo, the last two iterations, the 7 and the 8. Now, the 8 has the dock kit. The 7 does not. But the 7 and also the 8 have this little multifunction guy that you can get with it. This comes with the $150 package. And the two things that this does is, number one, it has a camera lens. So if you're not using Apple's dock kit, you can use this as the tracking. But also it's a little light, which is nice and just as a fill. And you have your ability to do different... if I knew where the power button was, you have the ability to do different levels of brightness with it. Oh, there's no battery. It plugs into the phone.
And then that's the mic receiver as well, right?
Correct. Yeah, so if you have the mic 2 or 3, then now you've got wireless audio into here. The other thing that I'm so happy that they did is they actually put a little tripod foot integrated into the body that collapses in.
So cool.
So before, if I could, I've clearly locked it somehow and I don't know what I'm doing yet. But before, you always had to have that little extra, when you wanted to balance it and set it up, you had to have that either a tripod or the little desktop tripod that came with it to set it up. Now it's a little bit easier. So
I wonder if you could do two mics into that. If we're doing trade show coverage, just to plop down next to a trade show booth, give the presenter a mic, and then have one on ourselves, how that would work, if we could do some kind of dual mic scenario. Because you have a 2-pack, right, of DJI mics?
Yeah,
you should try that for us and let us know.
Because
that'd be cool.
The only thing is, it's almost like you see people with the little, they have that little lav that they hold in front of people, and now the opposite is, you'll get the DJI mic, and then I think I was with Omar, and he had this when we were at NAB.
The stick.
He had this stick that then it has, so it looks like a stick mic, even though it's not really. It was just it's funny to see how all of these things start to.
It works. It's about getting that mic closer to the subject, and if you could do it with a stick and disguise it with a little wind muff, hey.
Even though it's a disguised little clip-on mic, it feels so much better to have the little. But anyway, while we're on the topic of phones, next question.
This one's coming in from Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia, USA. Panel, what are the use cases for your smartphones per pre-show conversation today?
Jesse.
Well, I wasn't a member of the pre-show conversation, but I'll jump in a little bit on this because there's just great stuff going on in the phone camera universe. I think we're seeing on CJ, you've got the 17 Pro Max. Is that correct? We just got our. There was a nod behind the scenes confirming that I was correct.
Yes. Sorry, it was a nod, but a muted nod. I was trying to not have beeps come into program again.
That's okay. We just got our 17 Pro Max in, and this thing it's a beast. It's insane what you're getting for less than $2,000. The use case that we're seeing so far is a lot of really easy, accessible behind-the-scenes footage. Everything that was frustrating about a GoPro or something like that is no longer frustrating with something like an iPhone. We've got, it's just great. We got a little cage going on that keeps it protected and makes it easy to mount. You got handlebars here, there, and everywhere. 3/4 inch mount, hard drive mounts. So it's like it's closer to a camera at this point than it is to an action cam or a phone. This is at this point it's functioning more like a camera with a large screen on the back than anything else.
The other thing is you've got all of these little utility cases where I'm using it as a connection to comms on a smaller show. I'm using it as a controller. If I have the Blackmagic camera app, you're not only using it as a remote controller for other phones and iPads running Blackmagic camera, but also to control the Blackmagic camera. So if you have that kind of connection, now if you put the camera somewhere hard to get, you can make those little adjustments. Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, I was just going to say that one of Paul's earlier questions that relates to this is if you're using the iPhone to capture with the Blackmagic camera app, you have just a phenomenal fast way to create content. So when Tony asks what are the use cases for these, I mean, with the Blackmagic camera app, you could shoot in RAW, which is huge file sizes, but the quality, if you have time to finesse it, it looks amazing. But for some of the fast turn stuff, if you just want to bump something out, Blackmagic camera app in ProRes or even just the HEVC. But I know Paul's probably going to be excited about this, but this is a way of recording with that Tascam. And then if you're in a trade show environment and the wireless is getting hit, this is recording here, so you're going to have to sync it in post, but now you're guaranteed that there's not going to be any wireless hits. And the reason why I like this Rode is if you see this handle length compared to the MD46, per what CJ was just talking about, being able to stick this mic in somebody's face and comfortably not have to stretch your arm versus this, you really have to get in there. And this is a pretty long handle one, and an SM58 is even worse because you really have to stretch and get in their face, and it's not a pleasant experience. So I have a video up on YouTube that lets you hear the difference between those three mics as far as how far that you could get away from their mouth. So again, creating content with the iPhone with good audio, because half your project is good audio. So how are you going to get that audio from the mic into your post-production with the best route possible, cleanest route possible?
I'm almost in the camp anymore that audio is more than half of the show, because something can look good, but if it's hard to listen to and I just want to look at it, I'm probably going to mute it if it's pretty. If the audio is important though, and I'm just listening, I'm going to put up with less than the best quality video if the audio is really compelling. And that's the thing that gets me. Go ahead, Jesse.
I think once you cross that 30-second mark, audio becomes more than half of the show.
So the only thing that I will put on my wish list, so to speak, for the Blackmagic camera app when I'm using the phone in production in a production environment or in just a video that I care about. Like I was shooting video the other night in a challenging exposure environment, and I wanted to be able to make sure I dialed my ISO and my I wanted to dial everything in with manual controls in the settings. I didn't just want to tap on the bright part and then use the little slider up and down in the built-in camera app. And the last time I used the Blackmagic camera app, I was shooting in Apple Log. So I'm not shooting footage that's easy to turn around without grading, but the display LUT's on by default. So I'm recording thinking that, oh, this looks really good. But then when I go to share it, I don't have a way to, I have to get that off of the phone into something else to apply even just the standard Apple Log to Rec 709 or to 2020 if it's HDR LUT before I can turn it. I wish the Blackmagic camera app had a way to do a quick export of the footage that I just shot with the stock grade applied. And maybe I'm just missing it, but I couldn't find an easy way to share that stuff. So something else I'm on the lookout for. Next question.
Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas asks, what do you predict the outcome will be of the Disney/ABC versus YouTube TV dispute?
Jesse.
So the 1,000-foot view of this is that Disney and YouTube are bickering over what YouTube can show and who gets how much money and what cut and what percentage and how all that's measured. And what the result has been is that they haven't renewed their contract and Disney channels have gone dark on YouTube because they haven't reached an agreement on who gets what and how to split everything. I think Courtney will probably speak in a little bit more detail with a little bit more nuance, but I think the result from the 1,000-foot view is kind of revealed in the two different business models, and that is Disney's model of streaming is withholding content from viewers until they pay, and YouTube's model is propagating content as aggressively as possible. And if you ask Darwin which of those two genetic creatures is more likely to thrive, it's the one that propagates.
Courtney.
Yeah, there have always been battles over carriage fees, and that's what they're arguing over. And YouTube TV, because it's not a cable company, but it acts like one. YouTube TV, gathers together a lot of live television channels and cable television channels, and they pay the cable television carriage fees to put those in one place. The difference between YouTube TV and a standard cable TV is there's no box, and the stuff comes in over streaming. So you have to have an internet connection to watch basically cable TV over YouTube. So the problem here is that Disney is a competing streaming TV supplier. And so and the other problem is ESPN. Since Disney owns ESPN, it's the most expensive part of their group of channels that are carried by YouTube TV. So the YouTube TV then subscribers have to pay for that ESPN subscription to Disney, even though they may not watch ESPN. It's part of the package. But it's bundled in there with ABC and the Disney Channel and all the free cable channels that Disney normally has on your cable network, plus ESPN. And because it's streaming, YouTube can offer several features of ESPN, like multiple games and the ability to click around in an ESPN game carried on YouTube TV and put two games side by side, et cetera, and do some little streaming tricks that you can't do with regular cable TV. So, and Disney also offers the same thing because ESPN is bundled as part of the Disney subscription. So I say buckle down because it's going to be a long dispute. Disney in their earnings call last night has said they have contingency plans in place to cover an extended holdout on this particular discussion. And the other thing they pointed out is it's driving subscribers to Disney. So people that have YouTube TV and want to see all the live games on ESPN, they'll have to go over and subscribe. They'll have to open up a subscription to Disney Plus to get those games now, and ABC. So I think since Disney has the good hole cards here, because the longer they hold out, the more subscriptions they drive over to Disney Plus that they may not have had before. And YouTube is just going to lose subscribers if they can't get, ESPN and ABC. I miss ABC more than I rely on it for my local news and all that stuff. And you lose all that because they pulled the entire ABC channel, including the local stations, off of YouTube TV. So now you have to have an antenna if you want to watch anything on ABC. And that includes your DVR. You can't DVR programs off of ABC anymore. You have to, they won't show up. And the ones that you have showed up, I think, disappear from your list of DVR'd scheduled programs that you've recorded on YouTube TV. So it could go on for a long time. I think the best solution would be for YouTube TV to do a deal and offer a separate tier for ESPN. That way they can separate out the high cost of carriage of those games on ESPN and make the YouTube TV subscribers pay an extra $10 or $15 a month to enable ESPN coverage on their YouTube TV. And that would be the best way to do it, with just the ESPN coverage as separated from the rest of the Disney channels and ABC. That would be a good way to do it. But they proposed that, and Disney has flinched in the past and said, "Nah, we don't want to do that because we want to, capture those ESPN viewers with our subscription." So,
and it's worth noting that YouTube TV. I was reading a Reuters report while Courtney was chatting there for a second, and the Reuters report said that the YouTube TV is the fourth largest cable TV or pay TV provider in the U.S. They have about 10 million subscribers, and every week that they are not displaying on YouTube TV, it is equivalent to about $30 million in ad revenue. So there is a cost associated with this, but Disney's calculated that their quarterly earnings call was yesterday, and afterwards, they hinted that they were ready for a longer intracted battle. And while it is true that it is going to drive some short-term subscriptions to Disney and ABC, as somebody who struggled to figure out how I was going to watch Monday Night Football this week, I was like, oh, hey, no problem. Earlier in the day, my wife says, hey, are we going to be able to watch the Eagles game? I said, yeah, no problem. We've got the Disney, Hulu, ESPN bundle. We've already paid for it. It's going to be great. Go to log in. It's like, well, if you want Monday Night Football, let me tell you, you're going to need the ESPN Unlimited bundle. So while you're already paying $30 a month to us, now it's going to be $39 a month as an introductory offer, and then it's going to go up to $45. And I was so mad. I said, well, I'm glad that we're only on Monday Night Football once, because we're going to cancel this immediately. And now I'm thinking about the whole, is Hulu, Disney, ESPN worth it at all? Because I'm mad at them now. I want to say I'm not going to use your services at all, and I'll just not participate because I think it's offensive. And I don't know. It's most of the time it's a holdout, right? We're going to resolve this before the Monday Night Football game, resolve this before the Emmys or whatever the thing, and they're playing chicken. But this time, it's really out there.
Well, it's also because Hulu, Disney has Hulu Plus, their own streaming platform,
right,
just like YouTube TV, where they provide all the local stations. So they're direct competitors in that field as well. And it's just driving subscriptions away from YouTube toward Hulu TV Plus.
And it's part of the fact that their traditional television revenue, their profit was down almost $400 million. So they're because the subscribers are going away from traditional TV, they're trying to figure out, how do I make up that revenue? Where I'm an absolute bonehead, though, is that I get ABC on that fancy Tablo over-the-air antenna that I talked about last week, and I could have just turned that on, and that has DVR. So if I wanted to watch the game, I didn't need to get into that whole thing that made my blood pressure rise against Disney. But I'm kind of happy that it did, because now I can air my grievances. It is almost Festivus. Jesse?
Oh, it's really easy to change people's behavior. It's really hard to change people's behavior the way you want. And CJ, you were talking exactly about the the latter half, and it's so easy to drive people away just to have them throw up their hands and find a new hobby or a new way to spend the entire rest of the year every Monday night or every Sunday night.
And I know YouTube has already said that they're offering a credit to subscribers, because, and I don't know if it's all YouTube TV subscribers or if it's just suckers like me who bought Monday Ticket or Sunday night NFL Sunday Ticket.
It's everybody.
It is everybody? Yeah, because I'm annoyed because I spent, whatever, $350 for the season so that I could get every game because my team doesn't play on my local stations most of the time. And then I get to this, you get to the point where you want to watch the game and you paid all this money to be part of this in club, and now all of a sudden that's gone too. So it's I don't know, holding NFL games hostage in the U.S. is a good way to get a lot of people motivated. Hey, if we have had a lot of great comments about this and some of the other questions. I got some good furniture tips already in the chat as well. So if you're not part of the chat, check that out. But remember, I like to think the chat's half the show. So if you're watching after the fact, the chat goes away. So that's live. We're here every day in Makana at 7 a.m. So if you go to officehours.global/join and you want to be a part of that, you can join the live show at 7 a.m. Sign up at officehours.global/join. That'll show you how to register for our internal system so you can get the behind-the-scenes chat, be on the email, get in the Discord, all that stuff. And I hope you do that, and then we can see you live tomorrow and the next day and the next day. But also, it's just a great community. So check it out, officehours.global/join. Next question.
David Brady in New York City, New York asks, speaking of studio furniture, here's some custom-made Abbey Road style Gobos. Go to about 22 minutes in for the finished product.
All right, so this is what he's talking about there. These look pretty slick. I don't know. I don't know if I need the custom furniture, but oh man, there's always this thought. I want to have the ability to have not like a set piece, so to speak, but more modular style, whether it's sound deadening or even just aesthetic stuff, because even in the room that I'm in now, it's very much, it is it works at this angle. And if I tilt to the left or the right or up, all of a sudden everything falls apart, but everything's bolted into the wall. And it'd be nice to have the flexibility to kind of move that all around. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, those are kind of sound isolation Gobos panels for putting into a recording studio where you want to, prevent the guitar, mic'd guitar amp from bleeding into the drum mics, etc., or the drums from bleeding into the other open mics, the vocal mics, if you're recording all at the same time in a recording studio, like they used to do at Abbey Road. These days, you put a guy in an ISO booth and you record each track one at a time. And you get up to 56 tracks in there, So I don't know how much those Gobos are used for a lot of live band recording these days, but I guess there's still a few bands that like to jam live in the studio and record and get isolation between the mics. So that's, I think, what those Gobos were designed for, not necessarily sound treatment for the room, but for isolation between particular performers in a studio.
I just want to have a hobby shed where I can custom make stuff like that. It's when I'm out there with a torch welder and a bunch of foam, and I don't have enough hair to be like mad scientist hair, but you can dream. Next question.
Paul Falhouse in Austin, Texas. Black Friday is November 28. Cyber Monday is December 1st. Adobe estimates $253 billion sales, which other production resellers will have the best deals.
Jesse.
I'm hoping Guy comes from the other side. Same building, different entrance. But, come on. You buy what you need for your business, and then it doesn't matter what the discounts are because you're making money off of what you need, and you don't buy what you don't need for your business. And then it doesn't matter what the discounts are on Black Friday, knowing that there's so much under the hood shenanigans going on Black Friday to deliver the cheapest components to the largest volume of buyers possible, that you're better off just, from my opinion, you're better off ignoring the whole shindig and just dealing with the equipment needs you have when they come up in relation to your business.
Amen. Guy?
Yeah, as a former equipment reseller, I mean, this was our Super Bowl. You know, we would gear up, we would spend months planning, and then just it all came down to this. We called it Cyber Week because we would play it out as much as we can. But behind the scenes, a lot of the manufacturers are teaming up with us to figure out what's hot. Well, they know what's moving because of the numbers, but come that time, you can buy in and get extra deeper discounts. So there's quantity levels where some of these resellers are allowed to break what they call MAP, minimum advertised price, for Black Friday. So we all get the same stuff and try to order well in advance so we can ship on day of. To me now, I was just talking to a guy at the sauna yesterday. I was like, I'm so glad that I don't have to deal with that stuff anymore, because it was just a huge headache. Because if you get it wrong, you wind up with a bunch of extra stuff. And that's what some resellers will do, is they'll mark stuff down, you know, half off, and only have a handful of them to get the excitement going. So remember, this is a game of like brain dopamine. You know, you're just basically scouring through all your emails, trying to find that hit of dopamine that you got this great deal. But like Jesse was saying, if your business doesn't need it, don't just buy stuff just because you got a great deal on it. You can have buyer's remorse and boxes of stuff you're going to have to sell at a garage sale or eBay or give away in a year. So don't fall for it, man.
Courtney?
Yeah, you know, Black Friday was originally designed to get people into the stores, into brick and mortar stores, to buy stuff. And so you'd have some stuff, doorbuster specials. Remember those that, you know, are only good for the first hour that the store is open, or 2 hours that the store is open, because they would lose money on them. But it would get people into the store, and then they'd find some lesser discounts on other things. And while they were there, they'd buy the other stuff. These days with the Cyber Monday, that's why everyone has turned to subscriptions. And since they can sell subscriptions direct, they don't need to go to a brick and mortar store. So resellers of subscriptions probably don't make that much. And it's not that advantageous to bring people to your website to buy one subscription that's discounted. And the other thing, Adobe, I don't even know if they sell packaged products. Maybe the Premiere Elements, you know, some of the entry-level software they might sell packaged, but it's all subscription these days. And so they'll give you an introductory prescription price. It'll be good, let's say, for the first year. And then they jack the price up. And I'm an Adobe shareholder, full disclosure. So, yeah, hey, great. I'm making a lot of money on that $253 billion in sales.
Yeah, well, it's worth noting that it's not Adobe is going to have $253 billion in sales. It's so Adobe's, their like Bright Cove marketing arm, whatever, is doing a market analysis of all of Black Friday shopping, of saying what are going to be what is moving. Is it buy now, pay later? Is it like, what are the market forces that are involved in terms of the marketing and advertising as a whole, as to what sort of economic activity is that going to generate? So it is. I looked at this and I was like, what does Adobe have to do? Like, because Adobe's not having $253 billion in revenue.
They don't sell packaged products anymore. Yeah.
Like that doesn't. It's like
that would be like 100 billion new subscribers in November for them to meet that number.
It's like this. It's like the math just doesn't make sense. But they, it's the report from their newsroom was that U.S. holiday shopping as a whole is going to cross $250 billion, rising 5.3% year over year. So it's this Adobe Digital Insights division that's publishing this paper, I guess, to, I don't know, help funnel more ad sales through there. I'm with Guy and Jesse as well, though, in thinking, don't get crazy and buy into, oh, that's a really good deal. And then just go and buy something that you don't necessarily need, because if you make too many aspirational purchases, then they end up in the big TV category, as opposed to my preferred purchase category, which is the tractors, right? You're either buying things that are going to help you make more money, or that you're going to sit there and watch. And you got to buy the tractors if we're making smart business decisions. It is one of those things where I've even been burned. I used to think, oh, you can always get really good hard drive deals and really good storage deals around Black Friday. And then I wasn't careful enough and was shopping for the discount instead of shopping for the spec, and ended up buying drives that were too slow. Yeah, it's an SSD, but, you know, SanDisk or Samsung or whoever cheaped out on the throughput And now, even though it's an SSD, it's only getting USB 2.0 speeds because I bought the Evo model instead of the regular T9 model. And now I'm sitting here going, man, I've got this 8 terabytes and it's super small and it's super robust, but it's slow.
Super slow. And another good thing to beware of is the Black Friday is used by retailers to close out last year's inventory before the Christmas buying season. And so if they've got a lot of older stuff that hadn't been moving, they'll discount it to below their cost or a little bit lower just to get it out of inventory to make room in their warehouse for the newer stuff that's coming in for Christmas sales. So they're going to be, it's a clearance sale where they're unloading a lot of older stuff. So a lot of that stuff that goes on sale is last year or the year before last product because you're not going to get the latest version of things if you're shopping on the Black Friday deals.
Yeah, it's also, and it's not only space, it's also cash. If you're a retailer and you have inventory that you've bought, that is money that you can't use elsewhere because it's tied up in your inventory. And there's a lot of retailers who get a little overzealous in the kind of inventory that they're bringing in, and then if it sits or the world moves on and now nobody wants to buy it anymore, they're like, holy smokes, how do I sell this stuff? So there is profit motive and there is business motive to all of these deals. So remember, if you don't understand how they're able to sell it at that price, it's worth pause and thinking, okay, how are they making money? Is this really as good of a deal as I think it is? Next question.
This one's from Ben Bedward in New Glarus, Wisconsin. Using OBS on an M4 Mac Mini, one might be some good ways to implement song lyrics to OBS for sending to a screen on stage for the audience to sing along.
I'm sorry, I just got the biggest smile on my face. There's a great beer from New Glarus, Wisconsin called Spotted Cow, and it is lovely. And so now my wife's going to Chicago. I'm going to have to ask her to sneak over the border and get me some. Anyway, thanks for being from New Glarus, man. Appreciate it, Ben. Go ahead, Jesse.
Oh, for something like that? Well, excited about the beer. About the subtitles, what I would do with that is I would build it out as, like in DaVinci Resolve and put the subtitles in white text over a black background and then use a Luma key if you want to, or just put the text up there as a video file. But I would marry the lyric subtitles to the audio before going live. You could do it live. I wouldn't.
Guy?
Yeah, there's software that's specifically for this. ProPresenter is expensive, and there's also, if you're in the house of worship market, that's kind of a standard. The nice thing is that if you watch some of the YouTube videos, it'll show you how they have, it's almost like a PowerPoint slide. So it's each lyric, because sometimes somebody will change. If it's a live band, they'll change. And so you can't just chase it with a YouTube video, because there's a lot of YouTube karaoke out there. And if you use those, be very careful, because some of them are really off. Like it doesn't line up. So now you've got the audience, you really want to rehearse this stuff. But as far as OBS on the Mac, I have a deck link in mind. So you can see here where underneath the tools, if you go, well, if you have a deck link, you can have deck link output, or you could do NDI. So these are both things that I installed into my OBS on my Mac. So Distro AV lets me go to like a Bird Dog Play or any other receiver. Like I have a Magewell here as well. And then here's the deck link where you could say deck link quad. This is an eight output, so I could feed 8 different displays with whatever lyrics or whatever PowerPoints or whatever I want to stick in there. So, but freeform, ProPresenter would be the way that I would go. The right tool for the job.
Courtney?
Yeah, I did look around. There is karaoke software. There's one called Lyrics, or LYRX. It's $80. And it puts, you bring in a song, and I'm not sure where it pulls the lyrics from. So it depends on whether you're playing back hymns for a house of worship, let's say, or popular songs or sing-along songs. You'd be wise to try this out and to see what access it has to what type of songs, and if the songs have to have lyrics embedded in the particular audio file that you're playing. So it's interesting how that would work. LYRX, take a look at that. $79. It's cross-platform on Mac and PC.
And you can get your questions into us 24/7 if you go over to askofficehours.global. That's askofficehours.global, and it's open 24/7, so there's nothing to sign up for, nothing to log into. All you got to do is go to askofficehours.global or hit the QR code here, put in your name, put in your question, and we'll start getting into those new questions again when the weekly show picks up on Monday, or the daily show picks up on Monday. Almost had it. Next question.
Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia asks, thanks to Tlaloc, I have removed the 1080p monitor that used to be the output on the ATEM. Do you have any suggestion for that? Only used it for less than a year. I have that monitor and the stand that was holding the monitor.
Jesse?
So I'm a little confused about the question. There are two possible ways that this could go. The first is, what do you do with an extra monitor? And the second is, what monitor would I use to replace that one that has been removed? You got to have something in your office, a computer that could use a second monitor. Every single desk we have is just covered with monitors, knowing that we'll set a laptop down and plug the monitor in and have dual screen displays. And any desk that doesn't have a monitor will receive one pretty soon, just because we're always setting them down somewhere and doing something somewhere in the office. If you're looking for a replacement 1080 monitor, this is the one that we have just been buying in bulk. This is the AOC monitor, 15.6 inch. It's USB-C powered. It folds up beautifully. You can fit 3 of these in a Pelican 1510. And they're just fantastic little anywhere, anytime monitors for when you need to plug something quick into your ATEM, or you need a second display for a computer when you're out in the field.
Courtney?
Yeah, and if you're looking at selling this monitor, good luck with that, because 1080p, I have 2 55-inch 1080p monitors that were only used for about 3 or 4 hours, and 2 4K 47-inch monitors, still in the original manufacturer's box, only used an hour or two, only used one day. And I've tried to sell them on Craigslist, haven't even gotten a nibble at selling them, putting a price at, under $50 for them. Nobody wants them. I don't understand. I would think somebody would want a TV. These are TVs, but they have HDMI inputs, 4K displays. Can't sell them.
I like, if I have an Apple TV laying around, or an older one if I've upgraded or something like that, what I'll use these for is for signage or just for a target to show something. So I have a TV on one of our offices that its only job is it has an Apple TV on the back, and then anybody with an iPhone or a Mac, which is most of our folks have iPhones, about half of them have Macs. If they're in that room, they can just hit the AirPlay button and the TV turns on and it starts sharing whatever they were sharing. And then when they want to turn it off, they just stop screen sharing and the TV goes back to sleep. And there's like a conference room display that comes up in the interim. That low friction to be able to share something or throw something on the wall is really nice. You could also either use something like that or get a little mini PC and use it as an information display, weather, clock, something like that. There's lots of fun stuff that software can use to make that happen. Next question.
This question is coming in from Hazmat Gajar in Cape Town. Installed Unity in our office, planning to extend Unity comms over the net to talk to remote talent and engineer. Meantime, we used group Discord voice as a workaround. It worked well enough. Comments.
I'm interested to hear more about this, Hosmic, because I was just talking about we have terrestrial walkies, like just good old-fashioned radio-controlled ones, and but we're moved into a space that's too large, and we don't always get to the other side of it, and sometimes there's interference, but everybody always has Wi-Fi. So, I'd be curious about this because it is something that I'm interested in potentially rolling out as well. Guy?
Yeah, there's a few benefits. Discord's great because it's free, but with Unity, there's the ability to put it on your Stream Deck and have a button where you could just direct to somebody. So once you get everybody loaded in, you can just push a button and talk to them just one-on-one, and that's really nice. The other nice thing is we have these little Bluetooth buttons that are push to talk, so I could have a phone or an iPad in a pack and then still push my button and have my Shocks comms on. And then the other thing, it goes through the internet. The bummer is, though, that a lot of folks have to use their own phone, so be aware that your batteries will probably die by the end of a gig. The other benefit of Unity is program. So you could have program in one ear, and you could even bring it down, and you could have what's called ducking. So you could be listening to the show, and then when somebody comes on comms, it automatically brings the volume down gracefully and then brings it back up. So you could be listening to the show, and you could change it to be left ear, right ear, because sometimes that's how I differentiate who's talking in a show. I could tell what's going on because I have it routed and pushed to one ear or the other.
Next question.
This one's from Robert Green in Los Angeles. Jesse, nice iPhone rig. Please tell us more about it.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Oh my gosh, strap in, guys. This thing is fantastic. So there's the iPhone 17 Pro Max, which is underneath all of this other stuff. What you're seeing on front is a little plate. Oh, let me lift it up a bit. So it comes with a little magnetic plate that you can use to protect the lenses and also to add other lenses. These are little screw mounts that you can put other extra lenses in, which is really nice to play with. The handles come off. The handles do more than just be handles. On the top, you'll see there's a little camera button, and then you can use that to trigger stills or record and cut. Oh, we're not done yet. Underneath, you got your little, hang on, you got your Allen key if you need it for rebuilding and putting this thing back together. Coming out the side right here, we've got, typically we wouldn't be using this HDMI breakout. We'd just be feeding the hard drive directly into the iPhone for external raw recording, which so far has worked fantastic. The mount that we're using on top is 3D printed T7 drive caddy. On the undercarriage, you're seeing a regular tripod mount. When these pop out, those become tripod mounts. What are some of the other things? Oh, and we're on the Blackmagic app, which I'm cutting to now, and I'm going to trigger record with the remote handle. You'll see ding dong, there it goes. And ding dong, we cut with the handle not touching the monitor at all. It's just too much fun. It puts the fun in functional.
I really love to see all of the different ways that, because the cameras are getting to the point where the cameras are getting good enough that more and more people are taking it seriously. And so you end up with intensely creative people figuring out kind of where to jam stuff in. It's one of the things that I find the most, that I get the most value out of at office hours, is hearing the ways that other people approach problems. And, yeah, anyway, that's just, it's a big plus for me. If you're finding office hours valuable, you can also help us out. You can, of course, like and subscribe in YouTube. We also have a great volunteer organization around here at officehours.global/volunteer, and we are a 501c3. We do have actual bills. So if you'd like to contribute financially to the show, you can go to officehours.global/donate, and we appreciate everybody helping us out there. The hat sale was really, really nice, but we also just take good old-fashioned donations. I put mine on a monthly. Next question.
This one's from Hazmat Gajar in Cape Town. Needed a longer SDI cable yesterday. Thought did occur to use a Band-Aid Blackmagic converters with SDI in and out to join shorter SDI cable. Would that work?
A coupler. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, it would, but you're using a $100 to $150 device to replace something like this, which is just a barrel connector that would work just as well. This is a 12 gigahertz SDI 75 ohm barrel. I have bags of these things. You should always have bags of these things to connect shorter cables together to give you that longer cable. And it's really the same thing as that loop through that's on your SDI in, SDI out. The difference is the one that if you're using the Blackmagic converter, it's putting a load on that as well. And unless it's an active loop through, and many of them are not, because you don't necessarily want an active loop through, because if power fails to that little box, you'll lose your signal downstream from that if it's active. If it's passive, your signal will keep passing through and go to everything downstream from that, even if that little converter box loses power. So take that into effect. And of course, there's no power required for your barrel connector, and it'll do the same thing as a loop through. And they're only $4. You can get them a lot cheaper than that if you're not sending, 4K or 8K signals around. If you're just doing 1080p, The ones that you can get for about $1.25 on Amazon will probably work fine for 75 ohms.
The other thing to add to why we might want to have a passive connector is that some of the active connectors, depending on how complicated that box is getting, also have the opportunity to add in additional latency. So if you're building in additional processing steps, even inadvertently, like a lot of those little Blackmagic converters, in addition to being a pass-through, also have the ability to apply a LUT. So if it's passing through that pipeline, even if the LUT's not applied, depending on the hardware, you may introduce some latency. So I'm all for the low-tech copper solution here. Next question.
Paul Valhos in Austin, Texas. What's the best Tablo box, current or vintage, to get ABC from my rooftop antenna and be able to save the recordings?
Go ahead, Courtney.
I like the Legacy Tablo. That's the one that I have. There's the newer ones, the Tablo 4, which is the round white ones. The Legacies are rectangular shaped, and they're about that big. The difference is you pay for the guide with the Legacy apps. The Legacy has a couple of advantages over the newer one. The Legacy has an app that lets you log into your Tablo from anywhere on Earth and play back stuff that you've recorded or watch live TV off your Tablo box. The newer one does not. Also, the Legacy one transcodes everything it receives off the air into MPEG-4 and records on the hard drive an MPEG-4, which is takes up half the space of the MPEG-2, which is what everything is encoded in broadcast on. The newer box just takes the MPEG-2 stream off the air and throws it to the disk. Doesn't modify it, doesn't re-encode it, but it takes up twice as much space. So you'll need twice as much disk space to store your recorded shows on the newer one, the Tablo 4. The Tablo 4 does include your guide because they also sell you streaming channels as well. So beware of that. That's how they pay for that guide, with the included streaming channels that they're offering to you, and we'll try and shuffle you off to, and rather than using the over-the-air stuff. And they may be even serving up local ads or targeted ads based on what you've been watching, so they're watching you as you're watching them. So I like the Legacy one if you can find them. I don't know if they still sell them. You get twice as much storage. I have the 4-tuner version, and it works quite well. And the remote app that'll run on your phone so that you can look at your stuff on your phone when you're far away still works, kind of. It is a little buggy.
Yeah, and I have the newer one, and pretty much just for local news. If for whatever reason the internet is out and I want to be able to just get antenna on one of my TVs because it's a tornado watch or something like that, was the original reason why I decided to go with that. Now it's for Monday Night Football, I guess. Next question.
This one's from Hazmat Gajar in Cape Town. Yesterday, I had 2 cameras in lecture room at university, Blackmagic Cinema 6K Pro, 70-200 lens, and an iPhone 15 with the Shoot app. My staff told me the iPhone looked better. Comment, operator flunked.
Jesse?
It is entirely possible your operator flunked, but there are other possible explanations for this, the tally on the votes from your staff. So I'm assuming that you were shooting on the 2.8 70-200, which is a lens we use all the time, often on the Blackmagic 6K Pro, or Generation 2 is what we use it on, if I'm being completely candid. It's a beautiful lens, and it's a beautiful lens on a beautiful camera, but it's a very low contrast lens, and you're feeding it into a low saturation image on the Blackmagic. Even when you slap on the LUT and go to Rec 709, you're still looking at something that is lower saturation and lower contrast than your average Rec 709 image. On the other hand, what's coming out of the iPhone is high contrast, high saturation, high sharpness, which is what people expect to see when the footage is finished. So if they're looking at the Blackmagic out of camera, and even with the LUT on it, and comparing it to what the iPhone delivers out of camera, which is also meant for distribution, there's no kind of intermediary there. It goes straight to the final format. they're going to say that the final format looks better because it's had all the computational color correction and everything applied to it. So it just looks and feels better from what people are used to. That doesn't mean that the Blackmagic can't look as good as the iPhone, or I would argue better. And that doesn't mean that the iPhone will give your post-production team as much flexibility in the back end as Blackmagic footage would. It just means that what they saw looked more like what they're used to seeing on a television or a screen.
The other thing that I would say is the iPhone is going to have a much more broad depth of field. So there's a lot less chances that you're going to miss focus depending on how far back. You know, you've got a 70 to 200 on a crop sensor. So I'm assuming that that camera was fairly far back with a shallow depth of field just because of your focal length. And then if you don't, if your operator doesn't nail that focus, that can also, you know, have somebody look soft. Jesse?
And if you're viewing on device, the iPhone screen is a bajillion times better than the Blackmagic screen.
All right. That's going to do it for today. Thank you, everyone, so much. You know what? There was one more, but we're going to move it. I got out of sorts. No, it's back. The back-end team is nimble as ever. Let's go. One more question.
This question's from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. Could beelinks' new GTR 9 with an AMD Ryzen AI Max Plus 395 processor that excels at local AI tasks and supports up to 4 8K displays be the most powerful video editing and AI machine?
Alexander?
Maybe. It looks like a pretty good machine. I mean, it looks like a Mac Studio. They are not being shy at all about copying Apple's design. It looks like a good processor, 16 cores. It has tons of memory bandwidth. It comes with 128 gigs of RAM. It has an AMD GPU that they claim is similar to, in terms of performance, to an NVIDIA RTX 4070, which I'm not 100% certain of. But I think for a compact computer, it could be a really, really good machine if you're going to be running local models on it. If it's for video editing, I'm certain you could build a desktop computer yourself with better performance. AMD does make higher multi-core processors. They have 24-core processors. So if you are really interested in multi-threading performance, they do have higher-end, more expensive processors that you could build a PC, and that's what I would actually do, because if you do that with a full-size motherboard, then you got PCI slots and you can install all sorts of expansion cards. That would be my suggestion. If it's purely for AI, could make to be a really good system for that.
Guy?
Yeah, it depends on how you want to handle this, but Chirig and I just bought 2 of these beelinks that are more for just not having the LLM local, but we use Claude Code. So if you're looking at doing something really explore, do you need to run the LLM locally? Because then that $2,000 beelink would probably be better. But for running Claude Code and storing the files, this is what we use with Proxmox and Ubuntu. Now, if you say the most powerful editing machine, talk about 24 cores. So this was what I was editing it on yesterday. So I'm remoted into a client's machine right now, but this has got a 5080 and 32 cores. This is about a $17,000. So when you say most powerful video editing system, this is it right here. I'm running vMix. This is what I was talking about earlier in the week with the growing files coming out of vMix, SRT into Premiere, and being able to cut super fast. So if you want the most powerful, Puget Systems has some Threadrippers with 32 cores and 128 gigs of RAM and 5080 and 5090 cards.
And Courtney?
Yeah, this was designed more for AI use because of that 128 gig shared RAM that's shared between the GPU and the CPU. So you can assign, big chunks of RAM to store large models for AI use that can access it. Otherwise, you're using the GTX board that'll give you the good tops, which would be great for editing, for doing those, but most of those GTX cards, even the 5090s, top out about 64 gigs. So you don't have as much RAM as is available to do AI work with. And also those 5090s are a lot faster at doing transcoding and rendering your outputs if you're doing editing and trying to render 4K or do a lot of overlays and things like that. It'll run a lot faster than even the Macs. the M4s, M5s.
And with that post and that pivot, we are now going to end the show. Thank you, everyone, so much. Thank you to the back end for dealing with slight squirrel syndrome today from me and helping me get distracted. You, besides putting up with my antics, also make sure everybody gets in here, looks and sounds great, organize the show, keep it moving forward, you're the foundation of everything we do. Thank you so much to our panel for being here, also contributing to the conversation today. It was really fun. We had a lot of great questions. I actually got through all the questions today, and that was thanks to our producers for giving us some good stuff to talk about, some good stuff to chew on. And there's a lot going on in the world right now. So we are all very fortunate to be a part of this big old Office Hours family. Tlaloc Traversal, if we would have to go ask these questions in person today, 44,000 miles, that's 72,000 kilometers, 352 million bananas for scale. See you in after hours.
Yeah, Alexander, after using this computer for the last couple of days, and then I went and looked up how much just the processor was, $3,799 just for the processor. So if you want to build
for that AMD processor,
$3,799 bucks.
Threadripper with how many cores is that?
32 cores.
64 threads? No.
Yep, 64 threads. It just eats Premiere exports like for lunch. It just,
you know what's funny about
so
that?
fast.
When Apple released, when they last did that major redesign with the Mac Pro, people were complaining, I can't believe Apple has, after years of wanting a new Mac Pro, they finally release it, and people are like, I could just build a PC for cheaper. But then it turns out, to get that kind of performance, if you actually do the math and spec it out, it's not really that much cheaper.
Yeah.
Hey, Guy, have you ever opened up your Apple Watch camera remote app with